Hey everyone, Mask Maker Buddy here. While I was browsing on my local LEGO store, I noticed something interesting. They had the pullback McLaren, and I thought it was a pretty cool set, and I was considering picking it up. But I noticed something funny about the set. This wing piece, I'd seen it before. And sure enough, I already had this piece. For you see, I own the Mystica set of Onua from 2008. But, that's interesting. It's a Bionicle piece in a modern Technic set. What are the chances of that? Of course, Technic and Bionicle both have very similar roots. Heck, Technic was even in the cover for a while. But really, it got me wondering just how many Bionicle pieces are still being used to the present, whether it's Technic or other themes in general. Now, it's very well documented that most of Bionicle's molds were destroyed when the theme was discontinued. And while some did survive in other themes such as Hero Factory, Lego City, and other sub-themes, over the years, slowly one by one, these pieces disappeared and were likely scrapped, as LEGO likes to keep their piece count and molds to a minimum. But despite this, some outliers did survive as they were just too useful to be destroyed. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take a look at the top 5 LEGO pieces from Bionicle that have survived to the present and are still being used in LEGO sets to this day. For number 5, we have the Technic Pin Connector. Now, this piece actually made its debut in 2003 for the Bionicle Matorans, and it's the famous piece used to connect their legs to their body. It's a pretty unassuming piece, but it's actually surprising its longevity. As to be expected, its most common color is actually light bluish gray, but it has been in a lot of sets in black, so that's something interesting to note. Of course, it was famously used for the Matoran, but it's been used in over 135 sets, so clearly this piece is considered useful. But as of recording this piece is still currently being used by the LEGO Group, and actually, its most recent set was a LEGO City Space theme set, so that's pretty cool, and it shows that LEGO really has no plans yet to get rid of this piece, but it's a nice little connection. It's crazy to think this little mech set is connected to the Matoran of 2003. In a weird way, it's almost fitting that this piece is used in something very similar to Bionicle's construction. But, alas, there are other survivors that we must go over. For number 4, we have the ribbed LEGO hose. Now this piece made its debut in the 2007 Bionicle Toa Mari, as well as a bunch of other sets that came out for the Toa Mari wave. It was a pretty widely used piece for that year, but rather surprisingly, this piece is still being used to the present, with its most recent set actually being the War Machine mech, which again, it's sort of ironic a Bionicle origin piece is being used in a sort of mech-like build. Again, it's not exactly Bionicle, but it's still really ironic. Unlike the previous piece we covered, this one has only appeared in 74 sets, but that's still quite impressive that this piece that came out all the way in 2007 for Bionicle is still being used to this day, but considering its usefulness, it's not really shocking. It hasn't come in that many colors, but I have seen a lot of variety, and I happen to have quite a bit myself, as I had a lot of Hero Factory sets as a kid, and they happen to come with a few of these. So, it looks like this piece isn't going anywhere anytime soon. But it's nice to know that we have a connection to the Toa Mari to the present day. For number 3, we have the Zamorsphere Ball. Now this one is kind of surprising to me. Of course, this piece famously made its debut in 2006 with the rightfully named Zamorsphere launcher. However, it also made a comeback with the Toa Fantoka, as it was used as the projectile for that cannon launcher, and of course, it was used then and again in Hero Factory numerous times. But I haven't really seen it in any recent sets. But despite this, according to Bricklink, it's appeared in several sets up until the present. It's kind of surprising to me that such a trivial piece is still being used to this day, but that's sort of to be expected, as with LEGO, you can pretty much use anything to create any sort of model and design. It's sort of ironic to me that the two launchers that made this piece famous no longer exist anymore. But ironically, the ammunition it created was just so useful that LEGO continues to use it to this day, with its most recent set being in 2023. So as of recording this video, the ammunition for the Zamor Sphere is still being made, which is pretty impressive. Keep in mind, Bionicle had several launchers throughout its eras, and most of them have been discontinued, but the Zamor Sphere, it seems like it's still kicking. And who knows, maybe it's going to be around for many more years to come, and might actually be around long enough to see Bionicle Generation 3. Only time will tell, I guess. For number 2, we have the Bck Eyes. Now these pieces have appeared in a whopping 397 LEGO sets as of recording this, and that is just insane. These pieces that were originally intended just to be eyes for the Bck, well, they have been in continual use since the year 2002, and that's just insane. They've appeared in all sorts of different models and different designs for different purposes, whether that be a car door handle, or the eyes of a dragon or a dinosaur, or different textures, or even for functions in general. This piece has really outlived its original purpose, which I'm sure the designers could have never anticipated it was going to be used for. It's kind of crazy to think such a iconic piece of Bionicle history is still being used to the present, and it doesn't seem like LEGO has any plans anytime soon to get rid of this part. It's just so incredibly useful, and I mean, hey, don't fix what ain't broke. It's kind of incredible the variety of colors we've gotten this one single piece. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say this is probably one of the most recolored Bionicle pieces that ever existed, as there's just so many different colors of this one part, and I don't even think most of the standard Bionicle pieces got this sort of treatment. It's kind of incredible, but I really hope that this piece is around for many more years to come, as it's sort of a reminder of the 2002 era, and it's a great reminder, honestly. And LEGO has found a use for this piece, and I just hope they continue to use it for as long as they can. But before we get to number 1, I have to mention some of the honorable pieces that would have made the list, but unfortunately, for one reason or another, they're no longer in production. The first one is the Skrull chess piece. Now this piece surprisingly survived the purge of 2010 and was not destroyed. Thanks to this, it was actually able to be in Bionicle Generation 2. However, with that theme's cancellation, the piece was probably most likely destroyed, as it hasn't appeared in any other sets since Bionicle 2's cancellation. The next piece is the Technic Axle Connector. Now this piece actually made its debut in 2007 with Tachodox and Maxillos and Spinax, and it was used a couple more years after Bionicle's cancellation. However, its last 2 final sets were in 2012, that being a Ninjago set, and of course a Technic Tractor. But since then, the piece has most likely been destroyed and hasn't been featured in any other new sets. And the last and final piece I wanted to mention was Gurok's Staff. Now, this piece has an interesting history as it made its debut with the Blue Rockshi, yet it continued to be in Bionicle here and there as sort of an additional part. Of course, it was the only Rockshi staff piece that had survived by 2010, so that's probably why the designers decided to use it for the yellow Rockshi. But because of this, the piece actually made it into Generation 2, and it was one of the few original Bionicle pieces to do so. But, like with the previous piece I mentioned, once Bionicle 2 Generation 2 was cancelled, this piece pretty much met its end right after, and it's a shame. Honestly, it was a really cool piece, and it was sad to see it go, but that is the way many pieces from Bionicle meet their end. They're useful until LEGO doesn't deem them useful anymore. And for number 1, I saved the best for last. This piece has been in production since 2001. It's appeared in over 464 sets. It's appeared in numerous different colors, and it's still being used to this very day. And that piece is the Technic ball piece. Now, before you comment, I will say this piece is a bit of a controversial one, because technically Bionicle could be considered maybe not its first theme, as it did technically make its debut in Harry Potter and Technic Lego C-3PO simultaneously, but I'm giving this one to Bionicle because those two sort of underutilized that piece. So we're going to count it as a Bionicle piece, but of course you could make the argument it technically made its debut in other themes, but I'd argue Bionicle was really where it made its official debut, and those other sets more or less were just sort of, hey, we got this new piece. Also, it's important to keep in mind this piece actually did appear in prototype images of the Voodoo heads, so that more or less confirms that this piece definitely has its origins in Bionicle. So despite this piece being mostly created for Technic, it's amazing just how many different themes this piece has been in. It's been in Ninjago, it's been in City, it's been in Harry Potter, it's been in Technic. There are just so many different themes this one piece has been used in. It's really shown how practical it really is. And of course, I am aware there is a variant of it, but even that piece, it's used heavily, and it also sort of made its debut in Bionicle, but I'd argue this one deserves the top cake. This one appeared in some of the most iconic sets of Bionicle's history, and it's amazing to think that this piece, this one single piece, is the lone survivor from the Toamata wave. That's right, this piece that is still being produced to this day has its origins with the Toamata, which were released 23 years ago, this month. That is insane to think about, that this piece is now the only one standing from that whole entire wave, unless you count the Technic Pin Connectors, but to be fair, those pieces were way before Bionicle, and they didn't come with Bionicle. This piece, it came with Bionicle, and it saw Bionicle go, and it's gonna be here to stay for sure. I'm sure the designers who created this had no idea that 23 years from now, this piece would still be in mass production and would still be in official LEGO sets. That is probably mind-blowing to say the least. And to me, it's almost bittersweet that a piece from Bionicle's beginning is still being produced to this day. And let's just hope that this piece continues to be in production for many years to come. Well, we've reached the end of the video. Today we've discovered that there are officially 6 LEGO pieces that have their origins with Bionicle. Now of course, I do want to say that I'm not perfect, and there might be more out there that I was not aware of, but if you know of any Bionicle pieces that are still being produced to this day, please let me know, as, hey, maybe I'll make a follow-up video and I'll talk more about those with greater detail. Now, it's important to keep in mind, while these pieces are currently still in mass production, at any minute LEGO could decide to replace them with a newer design. So let's hope that the 5 pieces on this list will still be in use by next year as well, and many more years to come, as they serve as a tiny reminder of Bionicle. And that is honestly really cool. It shows that even to this day, pieces of Bionicle can still be found within LEGO's system in general, and while they're probably not the pieces we would have liked to have imagined, they're still nonetheless Bionicle survivors, so I'll take it for what it is. My name is Maskmaker Buddy, and you guys have yourself a lovely day and night, wherever you may be listening to this. Bye-bye.